If you have a well pump, you definitely need one of these. I'm going to explain to you what it is and why you need it. If you don't have a well pump, just hit the thumbs up button and go watch something else. If you do have a well pump, you're probably thinking to yourself, I already have one of those, I don't need it. But this one's a little bit different, and let me show you why. So what this is a pressure switch that turns your well pump on and off. And the difference between this one and the one that you probably have on your well pump is this one has a little handle on the side. And the reason why this has a little handle on the side is this switch has a low pressure cutout. And the reason why that's a good thing to have on your well pump is if you have a situation where something clogs up your pump or one of your lines blow and your water pressure starts to drop below a certain amount, this switch is going to cut off and stop your well pump from running, because it's really bad for your well pump to be running with no water going through it. This operates similarly to a pilot light on a water heater. So to get the pump to initiate, you lift up this lever and that closes the contacts to turn the pump on. And once it reaches pressure, which in my case is 30 pounds, the switch will maintain itself and it'll continue going until it reaches its shutoff, which is 60 in my case. And then the switch will operate normally like the switch you have on there now. But if you get into a situation where you have a leak or your pump isn't drawing water for some reason, this switch will trip off and it won't allow the pump to continue to run and either make a mess somewhere or burn up the pump. Changing this pressure switch out is not very complicated at all. The first thing you want to do is shut the power off. Once you have the power off, you want to remove this cover. Use this little nut on top. You may need pliers. And you'll see these switches look identical except this one has the lever. Now you just need to disconnect all your wires. This wire here is coming from my panel, which powers the pump, and these 3 wires here are the ones going out to the pump. And of course this screw's stripped out, but that's okay. I'll just cut it off. And the ground wires also. Now to get this wire off, you have a couple of options. Well, this really shouldn't be loose, but you can loosen these screws here to pull the wire out, but I'm going to reuse this clamp here, so I'm going to take the screw off the inside, and you can just use a screwdriver to do it. Sometimes you have to smack them because they should be tight. And then you can take your wires off. And like I said, I'll reuse this. Same thing for the well pump wires. Difference is this has a rubber grommet on it, which is fine. You just shouldn't just stick the wires through these holes. You need something, a rubber grommet or a plastic grommet or one of these NM clamps. Now before I take this switch off, I want to let the water pressure off, and I'm actually going to drain my expansion tank completely. It's something you should do occasionally, and it just gets all the sediment out of there. And I have a shut-off valve right here that shuts off the expansion tank from the rest of the house, so I'm going to shut that off. That way I'm only draining down the tank. And then I'm going to hook up a hose right here. And then I have this hose running to a little utility pump and another hose going outside. So I have the drain port hooked up to a hose going to my utility pump. I have the house shut off, and I'm just going to open this valve and that'll start draining the expansion tank. And I have my utility pump, and I'll just plug it in and we'll see what comes out. I didn't get much water out of there, but you can see how much dirt was in the bottom of that tank. So it's a good idea to flush these every once in a while. All right, now that the system's drained, can close this valve back up and take this hose off. Now I can just unscrew this switch. And on the bottom there's a place for you to put a wrench. And you want to use a pair of pliers to hold the pipe so the pipe doesn't unscrew. Now before you put your new switch back on, you want to put something around the threads. I'm using Teflon tape. You could use pipe dope. Just be careful you don't get it on the top because you don't want the pipe dope to interfere with the pressure switch. And make sure that if you're using tape, you get it into the threads really well. And screw your new switch on. Now you can hook your wires back up. Doesn't matter which side you put these on, just the two wires from the well pump. One should go to this set of terminals, one should go to this set. And don't forget your little nut if you're using this type. And don't leave it loose like the last guy did. And like I said, the colors are not important. You just want to make sure that the loop is going clockwise around the screw, so that way the screw is pulling the wire in as you tighten it up. When you're all finished, you should have one wire coming from the panel going to this set of terminals and another wire going to this set of terminals and your ground wire. And then from your well pump, you should have one wire going to this set of terminals, one wire going here, and your ground wire. Now put the cover back on. And now I'll go turn the breaker back on. Once you turn the breaker back on, you want to lift up on this lever to turn the pump on, and then your pressure will slowly start to come up. And this is a 40-60 with a 30-pound cutout. So I'm going to have to hold this up until my pressure gauge reaches at least 30, and then I'll be able to release it, and then this switch will act normally. It'll just give me a little bit of safety. When I pull up on the lever, that's going to kick the pump on, and you won't be able to hear it because it's outside in the ground, obviously, but the pressure gauge will go up. And if it doesn't jump right up and you let go of it too soon, it'll shut back off. But I can hear it running, the water's coming in, and I'm building up pressure. So that's really all there is to it, to putting in one of these low pressure cutout switches. I really appreciate you taking the time to stop and watch my video, and hopefully you'll get yourself one of these and put it on your well pump and give yourself a little bit more peace of mind, and maybe you'll sleep a little bit better tonight. Thanks for watching.